Emily Scott never thought her marriage would feel this quiet. 8 years in. She and David were more like roommates than husband and wife. The kind of couple who shared space, schedules, and meals, but rarely shared anything deeper. She couldn't even remember the last time they had a real conversation, not about bills or laundry, but about feelings, dreams, or even each other. They lived in a cozy home outside Seattle. From the outside, everything looked fine. Perfect, even. David worked in tech, long hours, big deadlines, always tired. Emily was a part-time art teacher and full-time questioner of where her life was going. She loved painting, but hadn't picked up a brush in months. The days just blurred together. Mornings became nights. Love became routine. And then, one quiet Sunday morning, as rain tapped softly on the windows, David said something that didn't make sense, not at first. "You should talk to Ryan," he said casually. Sipping his coffee, Emily looked up from her toast. "Ryan, your best friend Ryan." David nodded. "Yeah, I think you two would get along. He gets it." "Gets what?" "This," he said, gesturing between them. "This space. This silence. He went through something similar after his divorce. I think he could help." Emily stared at him. She wasn't sure if he was being kind or careless. "You want me to talk to your best friend about our marriage?" "I trust him," David said. "And I trust you." That should have been comforting, but it wasn't. It felt strange to open, too easy. But at the same time, there was something honest in the way David said it. He wasn't angry. He wasn't blaming her. He was simply done trying. Later that day, Emily found herself looking up Ryan's number. They had met a few times over the years, birthdays, game nights, barbecues. He was tall, quiet, thoughtful, a photographer. Divorced 2 years ago, no kids. He had always seemed kind, but distant. A man who kept most of his thoughts tucked away behind calm eyes. She hesitated before sending a message. "Hey, Ryan." David suggested we talk. "I'm not even sure why. But if you're open to it, maybe coffee." The reply came quickly. "Sure, I'd like that." Tuesday. Tuesday came faster than expected. They met at a quiet cafe downtown, the kind with soft lighting and warm wood tables. Emily arrived early, unsure of what she was even doing. She hadn't been alone with another man like this since college. Not like this. Not with this energy. Ryan arrived on time, wearing a simple black jacket and a calm expression. "Emily," he said, smiling gently. "Good to see you." They ordered drinks, sat down, and for a while, they just talked. Not about love or marriage or David, just about life. Art, his recent photo project. Her students. The weather. But under this surface, there was something else happening. A comfort, a pull. A kind of stillness that felt oddly alive. He didn't look at his phone once. He looked at her and he listened. Really listened. Like what she said actually mattered. Emily hadn't felt that in years. 2 hours passed before she realized it. She stood to leave, unsure how to say goodbye. "Thank you," she said, "for talking. I didn't expect this to feel so easy." Ryan smiled. "It's nice, isn't it? Being heard." She nodded. When she got home, David didn't ask questions. He was on his laptop, half watching a show. "Good coffee?" he asked without looking up. "Yeah," she said quietly. "It was good." The next few weeks felt like chapters in a book Emily hadn't planned to read. She and Ryan met again. Once a week at first, then twice. Always in public, always safe. But each time, the conversation went a little deeper. One afternoon, they walked through the city's sculpture park. The fall air was crisp and golden leaves scattered around them. "I used to love painting here," Emily said, pointing toward a quiet bench. "Why'd you stop?" Ryan asked. "I'm not sure," she replied. "Life got busy. Or I got tired. Maybe you just forgot you deserved to make time for it." He said. His words stayed with her long after they parted at home. Things with David stayed polite. They weren't fighting, but they weren't connecting either. They shared dinners, but not stories. They slept in the same bed, but miles apart. Emily began noticing things she had ignored before. The way David always chose work over weekends. The way he'd stopped asking her about her day. The way she had stopped waiting for him too. One evening, after a long walk with Ryan, she came home and found David reading on the couch. She paused in the doorway. "Do you ever think we stopped being us?" she asked softly. David looked up. His eyes didn't hold surprise, just acceptance. "Yeah," he said. "I think we've both known that for a while." "So what are we doing?" "I don't know," he admitted. "Trying, pretending, waiting for something to change." Emily sat beside him. "You really don't mind me spending time with Ryan?" He paused before answering. "No, I think he sees you in a way I forgot how to." That should have hurt, but it didn't. Not completely. Because it was true. One night after a visit to Ryan's studio, something shifted. He showed her his latest work, portraits of strangers full of emotion. Sadness, joy, longing. Each one captured something silent but powerful. She stood in front of one photograph, a woman alone at a train station, eyes full of quiet heartbreak. "She looks like she's waiting for someone who's not coming," Emily said. "Or maybe she already knows they're not." Ryan replied. Emily turned to him. "Is that how I look to you?" Ryan stepped closer, eyes steady. "No, you look like someone trying to remember who she is." Their eyes met, and in that moment everything between them was clear. Unspoken, but understood. They didn't cross the line. But they were standing on it. Emily left without saying much. She didn't sleep that night. Not because she felt guilty, but because for the first time in years she felt awake. The next morning, David made coffee and they sat at the table like they always did. But something was different. "I think we need to talk," Emily said. David nodded. "I know." Neither of them cried. There were no raised voices. Just quiet truth between two people who had stopped being partners long before they realized it. Emily didn't know what would happen next. With her marriage. With Ryan, with herself. But for the first time in a long time, she was ready to stop pretending. And maybe ready to start again. The days after Emily and David's quiet conversation didn't bring any loud decisions, but everything felt different. Their routine remained the same. Coffee in the morning, polite questions, short dinners, but underneath, something had cracked. It wasn't anger or betrayal. It was silence finally being acknowledged. The kind of silence that had lived in their marriage for years. David didn't ask where Emily was going in the afternoons anymore. And Emily stopped explaining. There was no confrontation. Just space, open and strange. She saw Ryan more often now. Sometimes they walked by the lake. Sometimes they sat in his studio, surrounded by his black and white portraits. He never pushed, never asked for anything more than conversation. But every time she was with him, she felt something that had been missing in her life for too long. Attention, presence, and a strange, peaceful understanding. One afternoon, she found herself laughing, really laughing, at something Ryan said about his dog, who had recently torn up his couch. The sound surprised her. She hadn't heard her own laughter like that in years. Ryan smiled at her, eyes soft. "You're beautiful when you forget to hold everything in," he said gently. Emily looked away, heart beating a little too fast. "I'm not used to being seen," she said. "You've always been seen," he replied. "Just not by the right eyes." That night she lay in bed beside David, awake while he slept. She stared at the ceiling, her chest full of questions she wasn't ready to answer. What was she doing? Was she falling for someone else? Could you fall when your heart was still technically taken? Or had she already let go long ago, without even realizing? The next day she returned to Ryan's studio. The rain had just ended, and the streets outside glistened under the gray Seattle sky. Inside, everything smelled like paint, old wood, and fresh coffee. He was setting up lighting for a shoot, but stopped when he saw her. "I have something to show you," he said. He walked her to the back room, where a new portrait was pinned on the wall. It was a photo of her from their last walk. She hadn't noticed him take it. She stood in profile, hair wind-blown, eyes half closed, with light touching her face just right. I hope it's okay, he said quickly. I couldn't help it. You looked like someone remembering herself. Emily stepped closer, breath caught in her throat. It's beautiful, she whispered. Ryan didn't speak. He just stood there beside her, quiet and still. She turned to him, and for a moment they were inches apart. Her eyes met his. She didn't move away, but she didn't move forward either. The room felt like it was holding its breath. Then she spoke. I don't know what this is. Neither do I, he said. But it feels like something. Emily looked down. I'm still married, I know. And I don't want to be the kind of person who. You're not, he said, cutting her off gently. Their eyes met again. He reached for her hand but didn't take it, just let his fingers hover, giving her the choice. She didn't take it, not yet. Instead, she stepped back. I need to think, Ryan nodded. Of course. That night she painted for the first time in months. A quiet piece, just a face in shadows. No details, no background. But it looked like her, and it looked like she was waking up. The next weekend, David left town for a business trip. Before he left, he paused at the door. If you need time, he said, take it. I'll understand. Emily watched him go, feeling both guilt and sadness. He was trying to be kind. Maybe too kind. Maybe too late. With the house quiet, Emily sat in the kitchen for hours, thinking. She thought about the girl she used to be. The one who loved late-night music, spontaneous road trips, painting barefoot in the garage. That girl was gone. But with Ryan, pieces of her had started to return. She texted him the next day. Want to meet at the park? Ryan replied immediately. The park was almost empty. A soft wind rustled the leaves, and birds moved quietly through the trees. They walked in silence at first. Then Emily stopped and turned to him. You make me feel things I thought I lost. Ryan looked at her carefully. That's not a bad thing. No, but it's scary. I know. She paused. I don't want to hurt David. I don't want you to either. Emily stepped closer. But I can't keep pretending. Not with him. Not with myself. Ryan looked into her eyes. So, what do you want? She exhaled slowly. I want to be honest. Even if it hurts. Even if it changes everything. For the first time, she reached for his hand. And this time, she didn't pull away. He didn't kiss her. They didn't say anything else. They just stood there holding hands. In the middle of a quiet path. It wasn't romantic in the dramatic sense, but it was real. Later that evening, Emily sat on the porch of her house watching the sunset. Her phone buzzed. A message from David. How are you? She stared at it for a long time before replying, figuring things out. There was a pause. Then he replied, Me too. She felt her heart ache, but also, strangely, settle. This wasn't about betrayal. It was about truth. And truth was messy, but necessary. The following week, Emily met with David in the living room. No tension, no coldness, just two people who had shared a life, now sitting with the truth between them. I think I'm not the same person you married, she said. David gave a sad smile. I think I'm not either. I care about you, she continued. But I don't think we've been happy for a long time. He nodded. I know. She reached across the table, not to hold his hand, but to offer respect. I'm sorry. So am I. There were no tears. Just acceptance. Some endings didn't come with drama. Some just arrived. Softly, like the closing of a familiar book. Emily didn't run into Ryan's arms. She didn't rush into anything. She moved slowly, carefully. But she painted again. She laughed again. And she allowed herself to be seen not as a wife or someone's second choice, but as a woman rediscovering her life. Ryan remained patient. He didn't press. He didn't chase. He simply stayed a quiet presence. It's a gentle reminder that not all connections are mistakes. Some are just waiting for the right moment. After the quiet, honest talk with David, Emily felt a strange calm settle over her. It wasn't relief or joy. It was something more complicated. The kind of calm that comes from knowing the truth, even if it's hard. David left for a few days on another business trip. This time, Emily didn't feel lonely. She felt free. Free to think, to breathe, to figure out who she really was without the weight of pretending. She and Ryan kept meeting, but it wasn't rushed or forced. There was no need. They shared their days, their hopes, and their fears in easy conversations over coffee. Long walks and quiet dinners. Ryan was patient with her. He didn't push for more than she was ready to give. And Emily liked that. She liked feeling seen, but on her own terms. One afternoon, Ryan invited her to a photography exhibit he was helping organize. It was small but beautiful portraits of real people caught in moments of truth. As they walked through the gallery, Emily stopped in front of a photograph of a woman standing alone on a cliff, looking out over the ocean. The wind pulled at her hair and dress. She looked strong, Emily said. Ryan nodded. And a little scared. Emily smiled softly. That's how I feel sometimes. Ryan looked at her with understanding. It's okay to be scared. It means you're alive. That night, Emily went home and sat at her painting desk. She opened her brushes and started to work. This time, the colors were bright and bold. The strokes were confident. She painted a woman standing at a cliff's edge, hair flying in the wind. Eyes full of hope and fear all at once. She didn't think about David or Ryan. She thought about herself. David called her the next day. His voice was quieter than usual. Double quotes, Emily, can we talk? Really? Talk? She agreed. They met at a small cafe near her house. No pressure, no expectations, just two people trying to understand what was next. I've been thinking a lot, David said. About us. About what we want. Emily nodded. Me too. I don't want to hold you back, he said. If you need space, time, or something else, I want you to have it. Emily took a deep breath. I don't know what I need yet. Neither do I, he replied. But I want us both to be happy, even if that means apart. It was one of the hardest things Emily had ever heard, but it was also the kindest. They smiled at each other, a smile full of understanding and sadness. They weren't enemies, just two people who had loved, grown apart, and were learning to let go. Emily's relationship with Ryan grew slowly, naturally. They didn't rush into labels or promises. Instead, they shared moments, quiet mornings with coffee, long talks about art and dreams, comfortable silences where words weren't needed. One evening, Ryan took her to a quiet beach just outside the city. The sky was painted with colors of sunset, pinks, oranges, and deep blues. They sat on the sand, watching the waves roll in. Emily felt peaceful in a way she hadn't in years. Ryan turned to her. I don't want to rush anything, he said, but I want to be here for you, if you'll let me. She looked at him, her heart full but cautious. I want that too. They didn't hold hands or make promises that night. They simply sat together, two people finding a new kind of connection. Weeks passed, and Emily felt herself healing. Her conversations with David became easier. They still talked sometimes, checking in, sharing memories with gentle smiles. It wasn't easy, but it was real. One afternoon, David invited her to his new apartment, a fresh start for him. She saw the man he was becoming, quieter, more thoughtful, and accepting of change. Emily realized she was growing too, not just out of her marriage, but into a new version of herself. She wasn't the woman who had felt lost and invisible. She was someone learning to be. Brave. Ryan surprised her one rainy evening with tickets to a gallery opening downtown. It was a big event, with artists and guests filling the space as they walked through the exhibit. Emily felt nervous but excited. She stopped in front of a large photograph, her own portrait from Ryan's latest project. The crowd around her admired the photo, a woman with eyes full of stories, pain and hope. Ryan squeezed her hand gently. You're ready to be seen. Emily smiled, tears in her eyes. She had come so far from the woman who felt invisible in her own life. Later that night, as they left the gallery, Ryan looked at her and said softly, whatever happens next, I want you to know I'm here. For you, not to replace the past, but to share the future. Emily felt warmth spread through her. "Thank you," she said, "for being patient, for understanding." We stood together under the city lights, two people ready to face what life would bring, together or apart. One Sunday morning, Emily received a message from David. "I met someone. I want you to know, no matter what, I hope you find happiness." Emily read the words slowly. It felt like a closing chapter and a new beginning all at once. She replied simply, "Thank you. I wish you the same." That afternoon, she sat by her window. Painting the sunrise, she thought about love, loss, and the strange, beautiful way life moves forward. Sometimes it asks us to let go. Sometimes it offers a chance to start again. And sometimes it surprises us with kindness, with understanding, with a quiet love that grows slowly but surely. That Emily didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing: she was ready.